Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. In this episode we'll make some soup balls out of bread. Why, you may ask? Why not? If you don't like doing the dishes after eating, this is the perfect thing for you. Finish eating your soup and then eat your bowl. They're really easy to make too, so why not give it a try? So let's get on with it. And as always, you'll find a full recipe with all the details and metric and imperial units down in the description box. And if you're not into making soup balls out of bread, then check out my other videos. But let's get on with the bowls. So first, let's see what equipment we need. Need a tray with some non-stick paper, a bowl, scales, dough scraper and a temperature probe. Now for the ingredients, you'll need some white flour, wholemeal flour, water, yeast, salt, an egg and some seeds. Now before we begin, my kitchen's quite warm, so I'm using cold water. So first thing, let's get a bowl, add the water, and then in with the yeast, salt and the seeds, then give it all a good mix, just to hydrate the yeast. So give that a quick stir, and then in with the flour, the wholemeal and the white flour. And those are the last ingredients for the dough. Now grab your scraper and start mixing. You want to mix this dough in a bowl until it's one whole piece, to avoid making mess on your table. And if the scraper's not doing the job, just continue on by hand. And once it's all mixed up nicely, tip it out on your table and we start kneading it. This is not a very sticky dough, so I'm going to use a regular kneading method. What I like to do, press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, then using the fingers of my left hand I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn and repeat. Once you've done this a few times, you'll become a fluent motion. And the more you practice, the better and quicker you'll be able to do it. The whole process should not take more than 5 to 7 minutes. And once your dough has become nice and smooth and it's not sticky anymore, we can start fermenting. Let's get in a bowl and remember to always take the temperature. 25 to 26 degrees Celsius is what I was aiming for. Now I'm going to cover it up and let it proof for 45 minutes. Now if your dough is warmer and if your kitchen is warmer, it'll take less time. If it's cooler, it will take longer. You be the judge. But regardless, after the first proof, we need to fold. Folding will help us degas the dough, will also create extra layers in gluten structure and will equalize the temperature, so it's quite beneficial. To perform a fold, place your dough out on the table, smooth side pointing down, then flatten it out, stretch the edges over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started, and you have a nice tight ball. Then flip it smooth side up again and tighten it against the table, and then you can pinch together the seam at the bottom. Then back in the bowl it goes, we'll cover it up, and we'll leave it to ferment for another 45 minutes. And during the second proof, you should really see a rise. It's definitely doubled in size since we began. And now we're ready to divide it. Now this recipe will make 4 small soup bowls or 2 massive ones. I opted for the 2 massive ones as a main meal. But how many you make is up to you. I would suggest using your scales when dividing dough like this. You do want your bowls to be the same size, right? This dough is not too sticky, so don't go crazy with the flour. Using your scraper, release it from the bowl, then place it on your scales and weigh it. And I'm going to divide the total amount into 2. This might seem like a large amount, but remember that we are scooping out the insides of the bread. So you'll basically end up just eating the crust of it. So after you've divided your dough pieces, you need to pre-shape them. Pre-shaping is quite easy. It's the same actually as the folding method that we used earlier. Just flatten your dough out, smooth side pointing down, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, then pinch the seam together, and that's your loaf. And this is how you would shape most loaves, round loaves anyway. This is certainly how you would pre-shape most breads. Now repeat with the rest, and we can cover it up and leave it to rest. The resting stage will give the dough another chance to rise, but also it will relax the gluten and make it easier for us to shape. So we'll leave these for 30 minutes, and as you can see they are puffing up quite well. And now it's final shaping time. These dough balls are a little bit sticky, so just dust your table lightly. Remember that it's always easier to add more flour than to take off. You see, even this was too much. Now, just as before, place the dough smooth side down, flatten it out, then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. I sound like a broken record by now. flip it smooth side up, tighten it against the table, pinch the seam together, and that's your loaf. Well on its way of becoming a delicious soup bowl. And if you messed up the first one, don't worry, you have the second one to practice on. So let's get these on a tray with some non-stick paper. Make sure you leave enough space between them. And what I like to do before I cover them up is just to flatten them out a bit so they're a little bit wider. And I will cover them up for the last time and leave them to ferment for around 1 hour. And during the final fermentation, we want to preheat our oven. 160 degrees Celsius with the fan should do. And watch those buns rise, they're massive. This is exactly what you want to see. Now let's uncover these. There's just a couple more steps we need to take before they go in the oven. We'll take our beaten egg and brush these all over. And to give them an extra nice crust, you want to brush them and let them dry for 5 minutes and then brush them again. One thing I would suggest doing differently than I did, do not brush them right down to the paper. And I'll show you why in a minute. Now sprinkle them with some extra seeds. Pat the seeds down so they stick a little bit better, and in the oven they go. These should not take more than 35 minutes or so. You see how they rose a little bit funny? That's because I brushed them right down to the paper. That's not the end of the world. Just something to think about. They held my soup with no problems regardless. No leakage. And you could just leave these whole and use them as loaves of bread. You don't have to make bowls out of them. This is a perfectly good seeded country loaf. But here's how you turn them into bowls. First, let them cool down on a rack. And once they're cool enough to handle, grab a sharp knife and go in at the 45-degree angle and cut around the top. Then remove the lids and scoop out the insides. This bread is so soft and fluffy. And yes, I munched the insides before I even got to the soup. But that's your bowl, simple as that. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, write them down in comments. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I post bread baking videos every Wednesday and Sunday. Check out my channel for many more recipes. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.